All right, good morning, guys. Quick sound check. Sound check 1, 2. Awesome, appreciate that. All right, guys, getting started a little late here. I don't think there's actually really too much to pay attention to this morning, so I figured we could kind of shorten up a bit this morning. And the markets are going to be closing early today. So in case you didn't know, tomorrow is going to be July 4th. The markets are going to be closed. And equity futures today, S&Ps, NASDAQ, Russell, Dow, all those are going to be closing at 1:15 Eastern. So if you don't want to hold a position over into what would end up being Friday, then you would want to make sure you have that position closed by 1:15 today. I think probably the smarter play today is to have it closed sometime before noon Eastern time here. And again, that is if something sets up here. So with that being said, let's take a look at kind of where the markets are currently sitting at here. And we can leave the levels in place from yesterday here, 29.56 quarters in the S&Ps. Those did not trade. Neither did the NASDAQ support levels yesterday either. But coming into today, we've got S&Ps up 0.20%, NASDAQ up 0.18% here, Russell up 0.28%, and the Dow up 0.19%. So really the only thing I think that kind of stands out here is the Russell being up, about 0.1% more than the rest of the markets here. Given the weakness that the Russell had yesterday and the prior day, I don't necessarily think that's too much to really pay attention to in there, but it is gapping up just slightly more than the rest of the markets here. So what I'm looking for here on the day, I think this is going to be kind of like an options expiration day again. We're coming into today, 167,000 contracts have traded so far on the day, and I want to see what do we end up with yesterday here. Yesterday we ended up with 905,000 contracts traded on the day. The average ends up being 1.2 to kind of 1.4 on any given day. So yesterday a little bit lighter there, obviously, and I think today will end up being kind of the same thing. We actually may not even crack the 900,000 contracts today. Again, it's a shorter day. Markets are closing 3 hours early. So kind of keep all that in mind here for today as well. But in the S&Ps, my game plan here would be, we've got overnight highs, 29.88 quarters, overnight lows, 29.73 quarters, or 73.75, sorry. So we're getting a little bit of a gap up this morning here, currently trading 85 quarters. What I think the best play for the day is, and I'm going to be watching this with Nadex more specifically here, if there's an opportunity in there, is that we kind of stay basically inside of that range. So basically if we mark up, kind of 29.90s, that's pretty close to the 29.88s from the overnight session there. And then down into kind of 29.73s, so somewhere kind of right in through there. What I think can be the case for today is if we kind of rally up towards the upper end of this range, I think we can look to maybe sell a little bit of Nadex premium up there. If we sell off down here into 73 quarters again, I think we can look to maybe step in and buy a little bit of premium in there as well. What I actually think will be the better option is to look to the long side here. Typically on these low volume days and stuff like that, you don't get big moves to the downside. You'll kind of end up getting a little bit of a move to the downside in the morning, and then from there it'll kind of stabilize itself out. And I would honestly anticipate we close somewhere right here in and around whatever the opening print ends up being for the day, probably 2 points on either side of the opening print. So if we open right here at 85s, I would look for a close somewhere between 29.87s and kind of 29.83s. Pretty tight range, I know, but again, it is going into the holiday here. And there's no levels up here either. Again, this 29.73 is not necessarily an actual level, just marking kind of where those overnight lows were. But there are no levels in here. We're going to be getting into new all-time highs. Levels are going to slowly start to trail up here. We've got 29.56 quarters in place, 29.61 50s now. and then just kind of, again, just drew this one up here for a visual there as to kind of where we had traded to in the overnight session. So as we start trending higher here, the targets are just going to be wherever price really wants to go here. Ultimately, I think probably 3,000. I thought we might actually have a shot at getting that this week when we had the gap up, but it looks like it may end up being the following week here. Again, it is only 15 points away, but so real pullbacks here that we're going to be looking for next week are going to be coming into 29.6150s down to 29.56 quarters here in these markets. I don't think we're going to get that type of movement today, so I'm going to be watching for a little bit of range bound action. I will take some divergences after, say, 10 o'clock. I want to give it the first kind of half hour, figure out what it's doing. We'll take divergences to the long side in there today. Again, there is short opportunities on the board. I'm not necessarily going to take those. I would only focus on the long side here until we get under 29.56 quarters. Then that kind of changes the bias for me there in the S&Ps at least. So that's what I'm looking to do in there. In the NASDAQ, we've got a little bit wider of a range in there, about 50 points. 2450s on lows, 72s on highs here. And you can see we finally broke out of this 78.10 quarter level yesterday and just ripped higher. NASDAQ couldn't trade these 77.62s either. We got 77.69 quarters here, and we're putting in new levels for this at 77.80s. Again, we got 40 points away from that level in the overnight session, so really nowhere close to there. I would kind of look for the NASDAQ to settle out somewhere on the day around 78.60s here. So we're only gapping up about 10 points there. And if we drill down into kind of a smaller time frame chart here, 30 minutes not going to give it to us, 15 minute is. If we get pullbacks kind of into that $7,800 number, again, that's a little bit larger of a pullback than I would expect here first thing this morning, or at least on the day at all. But if we could get pullbacks to there, I think that's probably a good area to look at longs on the day, or if we set up some type of divergence here, because again, I don't necessarily think we're going to get that deep of a pullback to 7,800s here today. Crazier things have happened, so I wouldn't rule it out completely, but I just don't see that being a probable scenario to wait for all day here in order to take some long opportunities. So want to step that up a bit. And then moving over to the Russell here. So this is the one that's kind of the Russell's gapping up a little bit more, right? Like I said, I don't think there's much to really pay attention to with it. And the reason being is it still has not broken above 1574.70s. Even in the overnight session, we got up to 71.80s. So while S&Ps, NASDAQ so far that we've looked at here are gapping to new highs on the day, on the week, the Russell here can't even get through its resistance from Monday there. So I would honestly anticipate that the Russell stays, pretty much between opening print here, closing print here and this 1574.70. So it's got about a 9-point range there that I could see the Russell trading inside of. It did dip down to 1562.60s in the overnight session, and then back up to 1571.80s here. So it dipped down into kind of right in through here. The Russell on pullbacks, I do kind of like that for the day. It is kind of basing in the pre-market session a little bit more so, basing on highs more so than the NASDAQ or the S&Ps here. So I do kind of like it on any test of kind of opening print there. And I'll take a look and see what's available in Nadex for that one. That's probably actually my, I'd say that it might actually be the preferred play on the day, is a pullback to basically closing print yesterday for the Russell and taking the closest strike to that for a close above on the day. That actually, right now, as of this moment, that is my favorite looking play on the day. All right, and then moving over to the Dow here. So Dow's gapping through this level now. Again, Dow had 614 down here as a support level. We traded 621, so 7-tick front run out of that level, and then now ripping out here to the upside. And Dow's gapping 26,846s, so we're gapping kind of like up in this zone here. Keep an eye on the opening print there from Monday for the Dow, 26,865s. Overnight highs so far are 868, so we pushed through that level by just 3 ticks there. that kind of lines up with this 854 level that we had from earlier in the week as well. So I think there's a big area of kind of importance right in around this 26,865 level for the Dow. What I would like to see, second best rated thing on the day or play on the day that I see, the thing with it is it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, for it to achieve, but I would like to see the Russell kind of get that pullback to unchanged, somewhere, like I said, right around 1566s or so, and have the Dow actually be holding somewhere in and around, within, 15, 20, 30 points or so of this 26,865 level, and not breaking down as much as the Russell. And then I like the idea of taking potentially either the Russell off of that closing print from yesterday for a long, or I like the idea of taking the 26,865 as a targeting and then maybe even a close above play for the Dow. Because I do think this 26,865 trades in the regular trading session for the day. And again, I have not looked at Nadex strikes just yet. I'll look at those just before the bell. But if there is something right around there that we can use for kind of a targeting play, and then potentially, like I said, a close above on the day, that would make the most sense in there for the Dow, to me at least. And so most likely gonna, now that I'm kind of running through the analysis, kind of seeing what the chart setups look like, I almost prefer Nadex today over futures. And again, like I said, the holidays, low volume, all those kind of things here. So that's what I'm looking for in the equity futures there. The largest mover on the day here for the overnight session so far is going to be the gold market. So gold market had 1417.60s on lows, 1441s on highs, so like a 24-point overnight range here. And we're pretty much right down into, we just set those 1760 lows here just a little bit ago there. So we're pretty much back down here into the support zones down here, 1720s. So if we kind of blow this up a bit here, we got a nice rally overnight session. Again, we traded up to 1441s here, put in new highs over this day's highs right here. This is all regular trading hours sessions again, so we didn't break the highs during the regular trading hour session yet, and we didn't break the actual overnight highs up here of 1442.90s, but we did trade up into this kind of 1437.90 level in the overnight session, and now getting a nice reaction back off that. And if once we get a reaction off that, where we're going to go, that's going to be 1720s. So watch for test of 1720s on the day for gold. It has not quite traded just yet. 4-tick front run of that level so far, but I would expect that level to trade. Whether it holds or not is yet to be determined. If it does hold, then we could be looking for new highs up through kind of those 1442s we were just looking at that were in the extended session for the gold market going into the end of this week and into next week there. And then last but not least here, taking a look at crude. Crude had a really big down day yesterday. Just continued to work its way lower here. Cracked under the 58.11s and just went sayonara. Had a $2.81 range on the day. That's $2,810 per contract in the crude markets. So a pretty big move in there. It's gapping up 76 cents this morning, 1.35% in here. It is right on session highs, 57.07s in here. Honestly, what I would look for in crude is there's a level right in here at 57.30s. I would expect that to get tested at some point today. And if that can test and either reject or push through, then we'll have a direction here to trade crude. Again, I don't necessarily like this today with futures. It is going to be closing early. I think crude might actually close at 1 instead of 1:15 Eastern today. It might actually even close at noon Eastern. I'd have to check. But crude is going to be closing early as well, so keep that in mind if you are looking to trade crude oil on the day as well. So as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out. Today most likely is going to be a little bit of a snoozer for the day. Looking for pretty much two plays on the day that I really like, which is going to be the Russell back to break even on the day, and potentially a targeting play in the Dow up to 26,865s. So going to be focused mostly on Nadex here, and actually probably going to end up closing out my futures account for the day, and not be tempted to take anything in there just for those reasons I've already listed: the liquidity, the closing early, the holiday, all of that kind of stuff. So I'll be back in just a few minutes for everyone that's in the MLT Discord for the morning power hour. If I do anything with Nadex, if we get any of those setups, then I will post those in the MLT Discord. And if you're listening for the first time on YouTube and you want to join me in the MLT Discord, there is a link in the description below. Go ahead and click that link, and that'll take you through everything you need to do in order to get into the Discord. If you enjoy this content, please give me a thumbs up. If you are new around here, click that subscribe button. We go live each and every morning about 9 o'clock Eastern. Sometimes we start a little later when it's the day before the July 4th holiday, but hey. And if you are going to be doing things for July 4th, which you should be doing things for July 4th, I hope you guys all have a great time. If I don't see you until Friday, stay safe out there. Don't drink and drive, and have yourselves a good time. And I'll see you guys back here on Friday. Take care.